Here's a lady from PragerU to explain to all of us why she's no longer an atheist.
I was raised by two loving, secular parents. We didn't have God. We didn't have religion. We didn't really have a whole lot of moral structure or guidelines. From a young age, because I didn't have God, I know it may sound cliche, but I had this God-sized hole in my heart, and so I was trying to fill it with other things.
Usually the cliche is that people have a God-shaped hole, not a God-sized one. A God-sized hole sounds frighteningly large.
And by the time I became 11, 12 years old, those other things that I was trying to fill that void with were being cool and being popular. And that meant drinking and doing drugs and getting piercings and getting tattoos and starting to be with boys. So my parents, they pretty much let me do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And when I was 14, 15, 16, that seemed pretty great to me. I was having the time of my life. I didn't realize until much, much later how much damage that was doing to me.
What's the difference between having a God-sized hole and just being undecided about what you want to do with your life or how you want to live it? Lots of people in their youth experiment with lots of different lifestyles because they don't know which way of life is going to be best for them. Sometimes people settle into a religious life, but not everyone does. Some people settle into an entirely secular life that fills the hole as much as religion does for religious folks. There are lots of people, for example, who were raised religious and also did all the rebellious things that she did, albeit behind their parents' backs, because God wasn't filling that hole. I know none of my holes have ever been God-shaped, let alone God-sized.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I guess I'm a libertarian conservative. So when I was a senior, I got to pick whatever topic I wanted to study for an entire year. So I picked to study the topic, the liberal bias in academia. My professor was not happy about that. I was the only student in my program who was denied funding. All of the other students were given grants from the university and they had very liberal topics.
If you were taking biology and you proposed to study the anti-creationism bias in academia, I suspect you'd get the same reaction. Just as creationists insist that the reason creationism isn't taught in biology classes is because of anti-Christian bias, and claim that there's discrimination against anyone who questions evolutionist dogma, conservatives insist that sociologists come to the conclusions they do because of a liberal bias, and because of supposed discrimination against conservatives. Both creationists and conservatives, two groups which frequently overlap, seem to refuse to even consider the possibility that researchers in both biology and sociology draw the conclusions that they do because those conclusions actually follow from the evidence.
They were very confused by me because when I was a senior at UC Santa Barbara, I had spiked purple hair, I had a tongue ring, I had tattoos, and I would open my mouth and loudly defend capitalism and, be a libertarian and say, I'm a conservative. And they would look at me and they would go, you don't look like a conservative. And I would say, well, what am I supposed to look like? Am I supposed to have a tennis racket and a pair of golf clubs and a polo shirt?
I have seen many tattooed and pierced libertarians. In fact, when I picture a libertarian, I picture either a guy in a bow tie or someone covered in tattoos and piercings. It's mostly only the older conservatives nowadays who dress like Carlton Banks. The libertarians run head shops and tattoo parlors.
I didn't understand why I couldn't look the way that I did and still be a conservative. I then went to graduate school and I met my ex-husband. After my ex-husband and I got married, I thought that that would make me happy. I was still always trying to fill this void, and I thought that he could complete me and make me whole and make me happy, and he couldn't because no one can.
Except for Jesus for some reason. What is it exactly that Jesus gives you that nobody else can?
I started going to self-help groups for people who struggled with sex and love addiction. There was really no other alternative. So I went to these meetings, I went to these groups, and I asked for help. I met someone there who was willing to sort of take me on and be a mentor. And I asked, will you help me? And she said, yeah, I can help you. Read this book, write these journal entries, write down your story, and you need to get some kind of spiritual practice. I don't care what it is. At first, it made me uncomfortable, but the more I did it, the more I saw that there was something to this God thing.
Sounds like feels over reals to me. It sounds like you started to believe in God not because of any evidence or arguments, but rather because it feels good for you to do so. Now, if that works for you, I have no problem with it as long as you abide by William James's stipulation that you do so at your own risk. My concern is that since you are working for PragerU and seem intent upon proselytizing, you are not content to merely believe at your own risk. You want to pass judgment upon others for not believing, and pressure people into living their lives the way you live yours.
I'm married to a wonderful man who loves Jesus more than he loves me.
Oh, that sounds healthy.
And we have 2 amazing children together. And I never thought any of this was possible for me. I thought when I hit bottom, well, that's it. I ruined my chance at happiness. I'm never going to have any of that. And then when I became a Christian, I thought, what nice Christian guy is going to want these damaged goods? A divorced, adulterous, former atheist covered in tattoos. And God was like, don't worry, honey, I've got this total weirdo picked out for you.
If this guy is a total weirdo for being a Christian while not judging you for things that don't matter at all, what does that tell you about Christianity?
This other Christian guy who's also covered in tattoos and has plugs in his earlobes.
What do plugs in your ears and tattoos even have to do with anything? You talk about having tattoos and putting gauged piercings in your ears like you can't do that and still be desirable as a partner to a nice Christian. Where in the Bible does Jesus say, "Thou shalt not gauge thine ears like Jaden who works at Hot Topic"? I know there's a passage in Leviticus that says you shouldn't make cuts or marks in your skin, but plenty of Christian women still have their ears pierced and wear earrings, so it doesn't seem like they take that passage very seriously. So why do plugs matter? Why is piercing your ears considered acceptable by folks in church, but stretching them is frowned upon? A lot of Christians seem to see anything non-traditional as bad, no matter how little it has to do with morality or even their own religion. You earlier asked, why can't I look how I like to look and be a conservative? Why are you not now asking, why can't I look how I want and be a Christian conservative? Why did you question stereotypes before you were a Christian, but not after?
Our God is the God of a million second chances, and he can work with anything as long as you give it to him. I am satisfied in God unlike anything in this whole world can ever and will ever satisfy me. I can never get it from another person. I can't get it from my status. I can't get it from money. I can't get it from how I look. I can't get it from anything. But with God, I am fully satisfied. There were a few years when I really did step away from politics. Politics had been my religion for so long that I needed to step away from it when I discovered my true religion and my God. When I came back to it and I was on PragerU's website and I was just kind of clicking around and I saw a tab that said, "Come work for us." I used to work in the corporate legal world and I really enjoyed it. It was really intellectually stimulating. But oh my gosh, if I could work for PragerU, that would be like a dream come true.
I don't like the religion-based manipulation involved in the 12-step programs. It sounds like a 12-step program is what she went through when she started seeing self-help groups, given that she was told to adopt a spiritual practice, which isn't mandatory with proper forms of therapy, but does resemble one of the steps in the 12-step process. She also mentions that she had to make amends with her ex-husband, and apologizing to anyone you have hurt is another thing that 12-step programs tell you to do. The religious bits of these programs seem manipulative to me, but if it works for her, I'm happy to leave her to it. I'm not an anti-theist. I would prefer to leave religious folks who keep it to themselves well enough alone. However, it seems as though it wasn't enough for her to just be religious. She has to join a mendacious propaganda network as well. That's when she makes her religion everyone else's problem.
I left the legal world and the corporate world behind so that I could try to help save America.
From what? Does PragerU intend to convert America to Christianity? A lot of the folks involved with it, like Dennis Prager himself, are Jewish, so that seems unlikely. Or are you going to help PragerU save America from whatever made-up boogeyman conservatives are fear-mongering about this week? It sounds like all you really needed in your life was direction. You needed goals. If doing what you think makes God happy is a fulfilling goal for you, I don't see any inherent problem with that. The problem comes when what you think makes God happy is helping PragerU save America, because all they really mean by saving America is preserving the power and luxury of plutocrats. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.